This section of notes is going to talk about our perfect tenses, and we're going to focus on 4 of those to start with. And these actually follow our English pretty directly, so it makes it a little bit easier to understand. So the first thing with our perfect tenses is that they're formed by combining a conjugated form of haber with a past participle. The name of the tense, present perfect, past perfect, future perfect, will tell you what tense you should conjugate haber in. And then the past participle will usually end in ado or ido unless it's one of your irregulars. To form the past participle of an AR verb, the first thing we do is take off the AR and we add ado. So our verb hablar in the past participle would be hablado. To form the past participle of ER and IR verbs, the first thing we do is we take off the ER or the IR and add ido. An example of an ER verb in the past participle correr would be corrido, and an example of an IR verb vivir in the past participle would be vivido. The verbs in this chart are going to have an irregular past participle. Something to keep in mind is if you add a prefix to any of these verbs, that new verb will change the same way as your original verb. So that new verb will also have an irregular past participle. So abrir becomes abierto, cubrir, cubierto, decir, dicho, escribir, escrito, freír, frito, hacer, hecho, imprimir, impreso, morir, muerto, poner, puesto, romper, roto, ver, visto, and volver, vuelto. So just to quickly go over the different forms of haber that you're going to need to use to form these different tenses. The present tense forms of haber are has, hemos, han. The imperfect tense forms of the verb haber are había, habías, había, habíamos, habían. The future tense forms are habré, habrás, habrá, habremos, habrán. And the conditional tense forms are habría, habrías, habría, habríamos, habrían. So if we take a quick look at an example of each of the 4 different perfect tenses, we would have yo he recogido los papeles. This is the present perfect. My verb haber is conjugated in the present tense. No habían visto nada. This is the past perfect or the pluperfect sometimes. And my verb haber is conjugated in the imperfect. Habremos comido la cena para las 7. This is the future perfect. My verb haber is conjugated in the future tense. And then finally, habrías hecho algo diferente is the conditional perfect. The verb haber is conjugated into the conditional. So how do we use the present perfect? The present perfect is going to be used to describe events that started in the past, but that continue in the present or that they influence the present in some way. So for example, the sentence, yo he sido una maestra por 20 años. I started teaching 20 years ago and I'm still teaching today. So it's an event that started in the past and is continuing in the present. The past perfect or pluperfect is going to be used to talk about an event that happened prior to another event in the past. So if we look at the example, nosotros habíamos vuelto a casa cuando empezó a nevar. One event, returning home, happened prior to another past event, the start of the snow. So we're going to use this to emphasize the one event as more important than the other. So the returning home was more important than the start of the snow. So the future perfect is going to talk about an event that will be completed in the future before another future event happens. So, for example, habrán vuelto para finales del mes. So this indicates that something will be completed, they will have returned, before another future event, the end of the month. So again, this is going to be used to emphasize one event as more pertinent or important to the conversation than the other event. So the conditional perfect is going to talk about an event or action that would have been completed in the past. So we can use this as another way to express probability in the past. So for example, nosotros nos habríamos quedado más tiempo. We probably would have stayed longer. So this sentence expresses probability. So we can use this when we don't have a key phrase or a conjunction in the sentence that would indicate that we need to use the imperfect subjunctive.